Hey, this is Chris Monk at Highline Guitars, and you're watching episode 40 from the Luthier's Workbench. If you look below in the description, you'll notice that this video was posted on Friday, December 30th, 2016. That means we're coming up on the end of the year and the beginning of a new year. And for 2017, I've got a lot of things planned, a lot of ideas that I'd like to put forth. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this episode was what I've got planned, and that way you can kind of get an idea of the things that I'm going to be talking about in future episodes from the Luthier's Workbench. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the different goals that I have into two categories. One is on the Highline guitar side, and then the other is on the guitar building Luthiery side. On the Highline side, I plan to offer some new options on the guitars that I build, and that's what I'm working on right here. I want to offer the Apollyon double cutaway and the Osiris single cutaway guitars with Floyd Rose bridges. And my plan at the moment is I'm going to be using the genuine Floyd Rose bridges, and on the deluxe model, which is the more expensive model, I'm planning to use the Floyd Rose original. And then on the standard model, which is the less expensive one, I'll be using the genuine Floyd Rose special. And those two bridges are identical. The only difference is that the special is made in Korea, so labor costs are lower and the bridge is cheaper. And that allows me to offer it on a lower cost guitar. Everything else will be pretty much the same. The deluxe will have stainless steel frets, CTS pots, switchcraft, switch and jack, that sort of thing, whereas the standard will have nickel silver frets and more budget oriented components. So that's what I plan to do on the electric guitars. I'm also thinking of getting back into building some acoustics. It's been a couple of years since I built an acoustic, and I started getting that desire to go back into doing that. I love building acoustics. It truly is where hand building shines. You really can't build acoustics like dreadnoughts and grand auditoriums with a CNC machine. I mean, there are some things that you could do with CNC, but most of it has to be done by hand. So, and I really enjoy doing that. You can't build as many, but it's still a lot of fun to do. And I also find that when you build acoustic guitars, the demand for craftsmanship is so high that it actually improves your skills when you're building electric guitars. So it's kind of fun to throw those in there. However, in order to do this, because it's been so long since I built my last acoustic, I need to upgrade some of my tools and jigs that I use. I've done research and found that there are some new techniques and tools out there and processes which I'd like to put to work for me. And so the old tools and jigs that I have really aren't going to cut it. So I'm going to look at going down that path. And that, of course, means that because of timing constraints, I may not be able to get to my first acoustic in 2017, but I can at least lay the groundwork to start building them in 2018. We'll just have to see how it goes, how the year progresses. Years go by so fast. It seems like, at the beginning of the year you've got all this time, but then next thing you know, it's July and August, and you're halfway through the year, and there's no way you can get it all done. So, but anyways, that's kind of what I'm looking at doing on the Highline guitar side. On the Luthiery side, guitar building side, one of the things I've started doing in the last couple of months is I'm taking a step back and I'm looking at every step of my guitar building process, and I'm asking myself the simple question: is there a better way? And the reason for this is, and I think it's something that everybody should do if they're making a product on a regular basis, changes in technology change how we work. And when we think about advances in technology, we typically think of computers and cell phones. We don't realize oftentimes that some of these advances in technologies trickle down to just about every facet of our lives. And here's an example. In the past, when I would carve guitar bodies and guitar necks, I like to use coarse rasp files. They just quickly remove wood and get you to that shape that you need to be at. And then from there, you can sand the wood very smooth. And the problem with the rasp file is it's really destructive, and it leaves a lot of marks in the wood that can be time consuming to sand away. But then I discovered a new kind of file, and this has actually been out for several years, and I've talked about them before. It's the Japanese Iwasaka files, and they are a chemically etched high-tech file that allows you to remove very significant amounts of wood. And just by the way that you hold the file, you can go from a very coarse cut to a very smooth cut. And it's changed the way that I use files to shape wood, and it's amazing. So that's just one example. Another is sandpaper. Now you would think, how can technology affect sandpaper? Well, you got to remember that for every product that's made, there are people behind the scenes who are looking for ways to make it cheaper, better, and to compete with their competitors. And sandpaper is no exception. And in the recent years, we've seen all sorts of advances in abrasive sanding technology. It used to be, and I can remember the old days, you'd buy a sheet of 220 grit sandpaper, and you were lucky if it was actually 220 grit. I mean, the consistency in the abrasive grains varied so widely that one day you might be using what feels like 220, and the next it might feel more like 150 or 120. It just, you could never rely on it. And nowadays, the abrasive grains are so finely controlled that a 220 grit is 220 grit. A 320 grit is 320 grit, and there's no fluctuation in that consistency. So the sanding, the quality of the abrasives has improved, but also the backing materials, the adhesives that they use to glue the abrasive to the paper. This is all improved, and they're also adding. It's a fine powder-like substance. It's called stearate that helps to keep the paper from clogging. So nowadays we can dry sand all the way up to 2,000 grit, and we don't have to wet sand anymore. Although that's still quite popular, it isn't necessary anymore. And so you can see how technology is worming its way into every facet. So it's really important as a builder, I think, to keep checking out these advances to see how I can improve my own processes. And I've begun looking at how I'm doing all my fret work, and I found a number of ways that I can greatly improve. Well, I shouldn't say improve the quality, but it's more along the lines of making it a little bit easier and speeding up the process. I'm perfectly happy with the quality of the guitars I build now. The problem is every task involves so many steps that it takes a lot of time, and I really want to kind of shorten that down a little bit. And the goal is going to be to examine new processes and adopt those which at the very least will maintain quality, and in some cases even improve it. If I don't think a technique is going to improve it or keep it the same, if I fear that it's going to maybe lessen the quality, I won't do it. But what I plan to do over the course of the next year with each episode of From the Luthier's Workbench is explain some of these new tips and tricks and techniques that I'm coming up with as I explore how to improve my process. And I've already got several things in mind. And it's important to remember that, I'm a one-man shop, so I don't have a sterile work environment with highly organized shelves and all the perfect tools. I have a lot of good stuff, but I like to I have to rely on my own resources to build jigs and tools and things like that. I also have to make my own website, and I have to manage my own social media activities. So, I'm trying to do a lot of things where other companies have entire teams assigned to do the tasks. So, as long as you understand that, I think you'll see and appreciate some of the work that I do, and hopefully what I can do will inspire you to get out there and build your own guitars, or at least develop a greater appreciation for the guitars that I build. So but with that in mind, I'm gonna get back to designing here, and I hope that you'll be joining me every week or two for future episodes of From the Luthier's Workbench. So with that, I'm going to sign off and get back to work.